Welcome to the Portuguese Collective podcast, Nezia. You guys may know her from social media, especially TikTok, where she has a 500,000 likes, which is wild and has become a sensation when sharing her stories and her recipes, and her voice just captivates us all. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So I'm excited to share you. You're like my golden treasure, I swear, because when doing this podcast, I just surrounded myself around the California Portuguese people. And as I started expanding, I started learning East Coast people, Canadian people. So you're from Canada. Are you born and
Born
raised?
and raised, born and raised in Toronto to immigrant parents from San
Yes,
Miguel. So
both of
yeah,
them.
I'm definitely a Canadian girl. But it's funny. I always say I identify as Michelense. Like my soul came from
Yeah.
San Miguel.
I feel that. I feel that. And I think that comes with I had a DJ, Andrew DaCosta, on the podcast, and he really explained about how we weren't born there, but even when we go there, we feel like home and
Uh-huh.
how different that is of a feeling because they don't feel that coming to us, you know? It's weird to not be born there and to feel this really, really strong connection with it.
And it really does feel like home. I know I saw his podcast and I totally relate to him because it is this overwhelming sensation. But I think a lot of that has to do with being the daughter of immigrant parents.
Yeah.
I literally was born 13 months after my mother immigrated to come meet my dad. And
Wow.
so I was immersed in
I
I was the official Canadian stamp to seal the deal of landing in Canada. But yeah, I mean, I was immersed in it. And my mom came into my dad's family, who all lived on the same street. And we literally crossed the street to my tia's house for her to babysit me. Everybody spoke Portuguese. And
Yeah.
so I was completely immersed. I went to school barely knowing English
Yeah.
with cousins who spoke English because everyone spoke Portuguese to their parents, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I truly do feel more Portuguese than Canadian, which is like a crazy thing,
I
but
know.
it really is just the being immersified in who we were as, children of immigrant parents.
Yeah, that's so wild to for you to say that you feel more Portuguese than Canadian. I resonate with that so much. My parents kind of moved out where all the Portuguese people were, and I felt that feeling of like minority and not feeling like American. I was like, I'm Portuguese. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what you guys customs you got, but I'm Portuguese. At home, my house was Portugal.
Yeah.
That's how it is. Are you an only child?
Well, I was for a very long time. So I think that also lent to who I am today.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I was like the only daughter, the eldest one who happened to be a girl. So a lot of values were instilled and a lot of expectations as being the daughter.
Yeah.
And then, surprise, my parents decided they were going to have children and then had two brothers back to back at 18 months apart. So I had very little brothers. I was
Wow.
like nine, I was halfway through nine when the first one was born. And then 18 months later came the baby. So, yeah, it was a very interesting upbringing because I think that really enriched me even more. Like my brothers had it significantly easier because I was their cheerleader. I
Yeah.
had gone through the school system, gone through all of the firsts that were first for me and my parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we have a big age gap, but we're close siblings. They're also very in tune to our culture, very in
Yeah.
tune to, they cook Portuguese, they love to travel there. I think I definitely carry more of the traditions. I also think I carry more of like the history of our family.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the age gap and just it was a different
Being the
generation
first
when they were
too.
born.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 3, and my older sister sorry, sis, but she flunked kindergarten. She's 40 now, so I think she's over it. But she flunked kindergarten because she didn't know how to speak English well,
Uh-huh.
and I think a lot of the first children of Portuguese immigrants have similar stories, and my husband even was in a very, very, very Portuguese upbringing, and his school was half Portuguese, half English. They tried to accommodate the immigrant
Yeah.
children, but I think it just mixed everything. We got Portuguese now, so
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is where the Portuguese English kind of mishmash has come from, really, is,
yeah,
our parents trying to fit in trying to find the right words, that
Yes.
fight to not lose their heritage. And it
Yeah.
was so embedded. I mean, most of our parents, I mean, my mom was really young. She was, I think, 21 when she was here. But still, I mean, 21, with a new kid in a
I
new
know.
country when there's so much happening already with, navigating transportation, a country, other people speaking to you when you have no idea what they're saying. I think as much as she tried to learn English, priorities were very different. It was functioning and surviving in a brand new country, right?
Yes.
But I mean, we were very blessed in our school. Our school was highly immigrant. And so we had the main Portuguese teacher, and he was the one who translated for all the parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I passed kindergarten, kindergarten, but I went in like not really speaking much,
Yeah.
very basic things.
Yes.
But I think that generation schools were a bit more understanding because it was all immigrant.
I know in those times, nos tempo. Um, I love that you share your stories along with your recipes. I think that's so unique into what you do. It's not typically, yes, you're explaining what you're doing, but there's always so much heart to a story, whether it resonates with you or resonates with the recipe and the history behind the recipe. And there's something about your voice. I don't know if it's a little bit of that Canadian accent and just the tone, but I cannot scroll past you. You just have that captivating voice and tone that like you we're learning with you, and I love when you say, "Did you learn something today?" And I'm like, "Yes, I did."
I don't
I
even
just
know
wanna
how
scream
that
at
came
you.
about, but I think the whole reason this TikTok thing happened was a significant soldado of my dad.
Yeah,
And my dad passing away at like the biggest, busiest cultural time in our family. The pimentas, the tomatoes, the vindimas, there was smells associated. Like so much happened in September. And so at his 5-year anniversary mark, there was this really big wave of nostalgia over me, which led me to my story of being a proud daughter of immigrant parents,
yeah,
reflecting on where I am today as a sacrifice of what my parents did. And then it took off. People, and it's so funny. I was never oblivious that other people had a similar story. But
yeah.
when you hear people, commenting back and how it impacted them, how, oh my God, you made me cry. Oh, this reminds me of my mother. Oh my goodness, I haven't seen this. It's really impactful. And I thought, I'm just going to keep sharing my stories really as a method of my own therapy, of
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I felt good sharing that. I felt good seeing that feedback. It's clearly resonating with people. And I'm an empath. And if I see that something that I say impacts someone, it hits home for me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I'm like, this is touching people. Let's keep, sharing some stories. And, my mother being a very serious Portuguese, I coisas tulas. They don't want to hear this. What are you selling? I'm
There's
like,
also a
Mom, but
very
look.
comedic part of Nezia too.
I'm like, "Ma, this lady's crying. Like, ela tá, com saudades da sua mãe." Like, my mother's like, "God, don't involve me on this." And there's videos of me saying, "I got her in the background." She's like, "Eu tô te vendo, depois no TikTok, tu vais levar." There's a few that she actually says she's gonna like chase me after, right?
Oh
But
my gosh.
I think it started because people were like, there was so much similarity and so much connection with the storytelling. And I am a storyteller. I love
Totally.
that. And
Yes.
I took that from my dad. Like dinner was always a story.
Wow.
Dinner was always something. The first time I went back to Portugal, I looked at people and I'm like, oh, I think you're João Coga to me. Like you fit the full description of him. And, like Maria Merquinho, this one, that one. I'm like,
Oh,
because we were embedded. No, I'm not kidding. We were embedded in the storytelling with my dad
yeah.
that we knew these people that we never met,
Oh my god.
So I think, the storytelling is very special for me.
Yes.
And it's very natural to me. When I share the recipes that I share, almost everything that I share that's really like those homey recipes, they all really truly have a story. And it's become a natural thing. And people like it. And then, like if people like things that it brings them joy, like we're Canadian, we don't get paid for TikTok. TikTok comes out of the heart.
Right.
You know, it's joy.
Right.
It's like doing something that makes you feel good. You know, like I really, there's nothing else I gain from this other than meeting incredible people that were like, oh my God, are you Nezia D? And I've like now met a new person, you know, like, so really it's really about fueling joy, you know, in me and doing something productive for
Yeah.
me while I'm recovering, right? And still home. So it's been a really beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. I think 17,000 followers on TikTok is definitely an impact, especially when we're such a small community, right? Like, we're not really this humongous community, but we're huge in heart and love and tradition. And the thing about food, it does bring people together. And the
Mhm.
not just at the table, but the memories that kind of
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have not thought about bolo in so long." Like, "Oh my god, my grandma used to make that." Like, I could smell it right now. And then you've now inspired somebody to make that, and then you can share that with your kids and their kids, in which I see you with your daughters sharing recipes. What was the first thing you remember making, like, as a child or as a little girl?
The first big thing was the masa cevada,
Yeah.
and that was a big thing. Like, I did a little video because I found a picture. I knew I had a picture somewhere, and I finally found it of me with the lenço na
I remember
cabeça,
that.
you know, and it's like, you know, the words that I said to that picture were, like, so deep for me because it was a no, you didn't touch the masa, right? Like, nobody touched the masa, so it wouldn't get ruined, it wouldn't get spoiled because you know, we do things more these days, but back in the day, things were very set for economics, for finances, for tradition. You didn't make masa a lot. Masa came in specific times of the year, you know, Natal, special guests coming, a festa.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal that my mother put the stool and said, "Hoje faz ajudar," you know? And I remember that. I remember the feeling of feeling so proud that I could now assist my mother, you know? And I had to do the eggs and there couldn't be shells and you had to beat it a certain, and we had the batadeira jamão. You remember the little ones that you, and that was like, oh my God, I can use the batadeira, you know, like,
Yeah, like big
and
girl
like such
status.
a big deal, you know, to do that. And then the smell that came into your home and the smell is always attached to the prelude of something bigger, right? Like the masa's getting ready because tomorrow's Easter. And
Yeah.
so there was always this sequence that happened with these things, but then you got to eat it. And then you went to Titia's house to go bring her a bulu. So then you got to stay at Titia's house. Like there was always this never ending connection that came from that. And then it was just, you know, peel a potato. You know, it's this is funny. This past weekend I found pictures at my mom's. And there's one picture of my father making suspiros. My father was the king of meringues and he would beat it by hand. And let me tell you, if you've ever baked meringue by hand, it's a thing. And I remember looking at my dad thinking like he's Superman. Like, oh my God, look at him transforming these egg
Wow.
whites into this thing, you know. And he would pull the casca de limão out, and that was a treat. You got to lick the casca de limão, you know, like that was like chef's kiss. You know, no one
Wow.
else got to do that. And being the only child for so long, I was the helper.
Yeah.
You know, my mom was working. My dad, let's make this for mom. So quando she got a casa, she's got suspiros quentes, you know? And he
Mhm.
would make them so tall and so beautiful. And we'd put little sprinkles sometimes. And I remember that too. Like that's a core memory. And the first time I made suspiros after my dad passed away, I never made them like him. They came out humongous. And me and my mother crying like two toolish over the spiros because it was
Yeah.
such a core memory of my dad doing it, you know? So I have lots of, I mean, I remember making my first version of sopa capurcaria. My mother ate the whole panela. I put every vegetable, like tanta coisa. I'm like, Mom, try it. Peppercorns. My mother, I'm like, mistura esta que estás a fazer. I'm like, my vegetable soup. It was horrific. It was horrific. My mother can make soup just to say she ate. Right?
Oh.
But yeah, I think it was just evolution over time. And you know, there's a saying my dad used to say, "Astroça vinha." It's when the vines are small that you build your vineyard. And it's the little things that we do with our kids. Like I don't sit there and say, "Hoje vocês vão para a cozinha," because today I'm teaching you traditions, you know?
Yes.
It's just it's an evolution of experiences. Like if I bring bulls out, Lila, me, like she has to come help. If it's like masa cevada, it has to be Nina at Easter. Like they've just become part of this natural, evolution of learning who we are as Portuguese people, right?
I
But I
ex
do have core memories. The masa is definitely a big one. And the day that I finally made my own masa by myself and it came out like probably better than my mother's that year,
Well,
it was like, wow, I've mastered this like legacy of making masa, like the torch has been passed, ma. And my mother's like, ah, tá bom comer já não tá bom para fazer isso. So now I pass the
exactly.
buck to you, right?
I think what's really special is that you got 2 types of Portuguese parents. You have the one that teaches and is like, "Okay, you're gonna learn, and this is what we do, and this is how we take care of a family." And we have the one that, "Hey, hey, hey, sai daqui pra fora."
Yeah,
Right? So, like, it's a really actually special thing that they brought you into that because it could have definitely gone the other way where it's like, let the adults do what the adults do
yeah,
and be on your way because a lot of times we were shoved out of the way instead of learning. I speak for myself where I feel like we were part of the generation that was like shooed away more. We were like pests, like we were probably annoying kids, I'm sure. And so a lot of my generation didn't learn a lot of that stuff because we were kind of just shooed away to get out of the way. And so it's so nice to see you bringing that because it's like, oh, I do want to learn how to make that, right? Like, I want to be able to at least bring masa cevada for Easter because that's just iconic, right? Like, that's just what you do. You have it
yeah.
on Easter. So it is really nice to be able to have the recipes there, not only in English for the people that don't speak Portuguese, but because we simply just were shooed away and didn't get that beautiful story that you were able to
Mhm.
live. You lived through that special time. I'm not saying that your parents never got mad at you and shooed you
Oh,
away.
yeah. Oh, are you kidding? All the time. Or you did it now, pa, right? Because,
Yeah, I
it's one
know.
thing to make it, then to clean it up is something else. Yeah, I think, my parents were I had a very strict upbringing, but there's things that I look back now and I'm thinking, I was really blessed. Like, my parents had their strict ways of things, but at the same time, they were very open minded. Like, my dad loved to try different foods and grocery shop. This is the funny story of Nezia D. Every Friday, family groceries. I'm not kidding. Every Friday, my father would never leave me home alone. You will never be home alone. And my father was protective. And at the time, I thought, okay, he's so strict, but it was protective.
Yeah.
Like, you're my only daughter. I'm not leaving you home alone. Then my brothers, we all went shopping together every Friday. And, I look back and I think, God bless my mother. Because between my father's fetish, me trying to be independent, and two little kids who wanted to like dart into the plaza to go get like, Ninja Turtles and Spider-Mans, my mother'd be at Stagdueda by the time she came home, right? To
Yeah.
then unpack groceries. But groceries was a big haul once a week. We all went together, we were all included, we all helped, and we tried new things. My dad would be like, "Oh, I saw salsicha, looks that's Polish. Oh, we'll try that. Give me two of those." So
There's open.
we were very open-minded with trying new things. Even like, let me tell you, this week I got so much heat for showing my canned tomatoes. And this is funny because I did it last year. This year I did the sauce. I'm no less Portuguese because I make tomato sauce. That comes
Right.
from my parents wanting to learn, to provide. There was the guy at the corner store 2 houses away, Joe. You're like, Maria, make your pomodoro so you never have to go to the store and buy them again. And my mother's like, well, you make sense. We invest once in the jars. I got tomatoes all year. And
Yeah.
that's how it started, right? Like, so we had tomatoes, we had peppers, we had Italian stuff, we had Greek stuff. My God, we had everything. But that came from my parents' love of always making sure food was on the table,
Mhm.
and they had this cool mentality of, I'm in Canada and I'm going to try new things.
Yeah.
Which really, I have so many friends whose parents were not open minded. We're Portuguese and we're Portuguese. Nos comis, daquilo não presta, don't try that.
Yeah.
And my parents were open minded. So I think a lot of the stuff, and I don't even do a lot of the different cultural cookings. I try to focus a lot on our things, but I have a whole gamut of food that I cook because we just grew up like that. We grew up having chicken parm. We grew up having eggplant parm. My mother liked it. My father liked it. So why not? And I feel so blessed that my parents were open-minded that way because we learned so much. And it shows today. There's so much that I carry. And there's stories that I can tell of my father with other immigrants that were hilarious. I haven't even got that far yet. But that cultural experience, that even if we don't want it to, that settles on your shoulders.
Mhm.
Being in a community with other people that were all living the same thing, leaving their homeland to come and start fresh for their families, for a better
Absolutely.
life. So we all shared commonality, right? And so everyone shared their food, their recipes, their things. And I think like to me, like it's so beautiful to
It
be
is.
able to and then I get heat and I'm like, that's where the narrow-mindedness that drives me
Mhm.
crazy.
Mhm.
Because if we open our mind to doesn't matter if you're from Tusaid or Madeira or from San Miguel or from Alentejo. It doesn't matter. Like yesterday, I made a sorda lanchana.
Yes,
My
yes.
father ate that all
I
the
got so
time.
excited because
Like,
it's never nobody ever does it. So I'm like, "Oh my god."
yeah, my father ate that, and I have to be honest, I didn't like cilantro growing up, I didn't like it, but now I appreciate it and I
Yes,
enjoy it, but it
yes.
was a surda de coentros for us. But now, you learn it's like a surda lanchana, but, like, where did that come from? It came from my mother working cleaning with a woman who made it and was teaching my mother her recipes. And my mother was receptive. She's like, oh, my husband will like that. I'm going to try that at home. And there we go. Now we make it, like, so it's not
Yes,
necessarily an Azorian thing, but it's Portuguese and we like it and it's delicious. Right.
I
So,
know.
yeah,
We
so
don't
I'm very grateful they were
like
open
our
minded.
little flexia of how, like, the flexias do this or that, or even how we
Yeah.
say things, like, just be open, not even just to our Portuguese culture, whether it be from the Açores, Madeira, Macau, wherever, all the influences that are from our colonies, but also other cultures, and I feel like I could speak to that so much because when we moved when I was 5 years old from, like, a highly Portuguese area to not at all, I instinctively gravitated to other immigrant children, not Portuguese immigrants. So one of my best friends, her parents was Lebanese and Peruvian, and I was only allowed to be around her because they were cultured. They had the same, and at the end of the day, when you come from a cultured family, whether it be Portuguese or not, it feels safer. It
It
feels
does.
it feels just known, right? Like, it just feels
Familiar.
familiar, and so I remember, like, I'm like, "Okay, I have to figure out the ones that have culture because my parents will let me hang out with those girls." But, like, the Dominicanas was like, "No way, we don't know their life, their family," but when they would see that their parents, had an accent or were hardworking immigrant families, it was like, "Okay, we can trust them." So there's some unity with the immigrant children
Mhm.
regardless where you are on the map, and it's just funny that so little I gravitated to the other immigrant children of immigrants, right? So yeah, it's food brings us together on so many levels. So you and your dad were super close. So he was the cooker more than your mom, or it was just that?
No, my mom was the main cook, but my dad so, evolution of things that happen in life. Again, very strict upbringing. My dad, I think he was 36 or 38. They thought he had kidney cancer and it turned out to be kidney failure.
Oh,
And then it turned into this big journey of trying to keep my dad well and alive and not going on dialysis. So a lot of our food stuff kind of changed. Like the pimentas that I make with no salt that everybody goes, yeah, 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 yeah. You need salt. That came from not being able to have anything preserved or with salt to
right.
keep my dad's kidneys functioning. So I became my dad's caregiver involuntarily. I was, your dad's really sick. He needs to do these courses. They have to teach him things. And although my dad spoke decent English, when he got nervous, nada. He couldn't interpret what they were saying. He would hear what he was thinking in his head was the worst
Mhm.
case scenario. So at 16, I started accompanying my dad to appointments and things like that. So the caregiving kind of started and we became very close over that. I was with him for a lot of things. And when he went into dialysis, that was like, I would drive him. I would stay with him for his 4-hour sessions 3 times a week to keep him company because I was like, that's like, if you've ever seen what it's like to be on dialysis, it's a very lonely road. And my dad worked, and that was a big thing. No one there was working. My dad worked at a university, HVAC units, went to work every day, even on dialysis. So I started driving him, picking him up. Like, so I got to see a different side of my dad, a very humbled side of my dad, of having such a chronic life altering disease.
Wow.
And so my dad could cook. My dad had really fun things he would cook, but my mom was the main provider. And then when my dad got sick, she became the sole person because
Mm.
food became life for my dad, right? Like
Mhm.
making things that would take care of him became my mother's function, right? At that point. So they both cooked. They were both very interested in food, and the house always had to have food. The arcage always had to be full of food. We would go on cow adventures where like my father would buy half a cow and you'd have to go there. Like the things I've seen, we had to sit there at the grocery store while the guy's like, Alfred, queres o steak assim ou queres o steak assim? Assim mais grosso, okay. Queijo de carne guisada, sim, o queijo de carne guisada. We sat there while the guy chopped up half of a rack of cow, right? Like, so our food experiences growing up were very interesting. And I think that came from, my parents both were very blessed. They didn't live in a poor environment, but they lived in, especially my dad, it was around the evolution of the terras. And so they always had food, but it went by seasons, like a
Mm.
lot of batata dulce or a lot of
Yes.
repolho or a lot of this and so, but they both loved food. And even my father's family, they would like salgar coisas to keep it during the months where food was scarce. And so I learned a lot of these things over the years of just hearing my grandparents, my father's stories, going to Portugal, seeing the things my grandparents had, how they used to salgar pimentas, why they used to do it, because that preserved it. Like, and so I think both of my parents were blessed that both of the families loved food and both of the family revolved around the table. Like that was the place that everyone came and sat and broke bread and talked and had storytelling. And so I think that I get a lot of that from both sides, but
Yes.
they were both balanced. I think over the years, what ended up happening was my mom became the sole person, right?
Yes.
And then my brothers would cook too from time to time, but it was mostly my mom and mostly because of the fact my dad was ill.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and God bless your father's soul because he is definitely living through you, and you're able to share all the fun stuff about him. And that's kind of the special thing with social media too, is that you're able to share these things that are it kind of feels like a diary in a way, but you are now talking to 17,000 people. But it does feel very personal. So speaking to the taking care and the nurturing thing, food also plays so much of a role in healing and taking care of your people. So food is such a magical
It
cast,
really is.
on people. It's like this spell that, we're
It
enamored with.
really is. The amount of stories that I hear sometimes, and again, I'm the empath, so I cry at half the DMs I get because
Yes.
people pour, and I think there's a lot of relatability to me. People are like, "You're like my old sister. You're like my long lost cousin. I have a prima who looks like you. I have," and
Yeah.
I think like the way I come on the app is legit how you will meet me in person. And so when
One with
people
it.
meet me, they're like, "Oh my God, you're like exactly the same," whatever. And but I think the connectivity people feel to me, the things that I hear, just sometimes the stories that come out of the connection with food. I took care of my mom, and in caring for her, I never learned how she cooked. Or the dementia stuff comes out so much, my mom no longer remembers. But I got goosebumps right now.
Me
Like
too. Me
I
too.
made your dulce, and my mother remembered it. And I'm like, "Kradno you, don't tell me these things. I said to God."
I know.
And then I'm like, "Ma, see, the creation person video, kind of new to remember the like, I don't think she realizes the impact of what
Yeah.
it is or fully understands the connection people feel. Because sometimes she's like, "You said on tool." I'm like, "Mom, it's tool to you, but this brings people back to things." Like, I have a video I haven't posted yet, but it's like supers de vinho,
Mhm.
dry bread, sugar, and wine.
Yeah.
Aquecido. My father used to do that every once in a blue moon. And I haven't put out my mom, she sat on tool. I'm like, "Mom, you're gonna see how many people are gonna say my afu, my dad. I
Yeah.
used to sit. That's how I got wine the first time."
Yeah.
Like there's so much connectivity to that, but there's so many stories, Sylvia, of how people are like, "Wow, my mom used to make that and she can't understand what I'm asking. And it was one person recently was called wazid, a very easy soup. And we put cinnamon. She's like, that's exactly how my mother made it. She's like, oh my God, I'm going to cry. And I'm like, please let me know if your mom liked it. She's like, my mom remembered it. And I'm like, wow, the impact of food and the impact of memory connected to
Yes,
food is actually like, it is healing.
it is.
As much as, yes, you have to watch what you eat, but like, there's something like, I have no problem grabbing my slab of masa with the husdus on top, and I'm not looking. There's no calories in that slab of masa because that soothes a spot in your soul that
Yes.
sometimes you need. There's no calories in that, just so you all know. You can eat that when your heart needs something. There's no calories attached to that dish,
Thank you
you
so
know?
much for letting us know. That's even, like, the simple gestures of, like, putting wine in your canja and, like,
Yeah.
those little things that you may forget or, like, putting 7 Up in your Ving Verde.
Vinho.
Like, I remember being a little kid at the festas, be like, "Go grab that. Go grab the white" Ving Verde, and we're, like, doing it in the corner, putting 7 Up in it, like, then we got a little buzz at 11.
Yeah, 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 it's true.
But
It's so
it's just
funny.
so
It's so like, oh my God, this is so bad. I'm gonna say, I'm like, Nina, do you want to try some wine? No. I'm like, girl, I
Yes,
was
how old is
9.
your
I was
oldest
having
daughter?
big fujidrala with your grandfather. I was 9. Right?
Yes, my mom on Christmas, which I'll probably make a video of this, you made me reminded me of this. On Christmas, they would my mom said, "When we were little kids, we used to look forward so much to the shot of Anish at
Yes.
on Christmas, and we just couldn't wait for like Noit Natal because we knew we were all gonna get warmed up inside with that little and it was so good, so good. So like every Christmas morning, me and my mom would share to Anish, and it was just like that memory of her as a little girl. Now that tradition came from her childhood, not having a lot, not having the Christmas presents, not having the
Yeah.
filled up stockings. It was truly chocolate by your sapatinhos at
For Shimine.
the fireplace
Yeah.
and whatever. Well, it wasn't a fireplace like that, but where they made everything. And the niche, that was their Christmas gifts. So just
And if
those
they're lucky, a fig passade. That's the story my dad always tells, the fig passade that they waited for all year.
I know,
I
yes.
like, humbler times for sure.
Yes, humbler times, and we live in this, like, everything is exaggerated, and when we go back to those moments where our parents really didn't have anything, which is why your dad probably made the bread with the wine and the sugar, because it's like,
Right.
"C'est comme ça," like, "This is what we got." And even all of the dishes were made to be spread out in bigger
Yeah.
portions to feed a bigger family, so a lot
Yeah.
of these caldos and all that stuff was to feed
Yeah.
plenty and to
Yeah.
go a long way. So I mean, even story my mom told me a story about how her avó, she would see her not eating anything, but, like, everybody else was
For the
eating.
kids to eat. Yeah.
And it just has to
Yeah.
it did something it does something to your heart and your soul, and I think it makes us who
Yeah.
we are, and I just feel very different, than some of my peers because of how I was raised and the história de imigrantes,
Yeah.
like, even how we are here as family, my cousins here, Christmas every year together, we're pegados primos, but over there, I remember visiting when I was, I don't know, in my earlier 20s, and I was hanging out with some of my cousins, and I was like, "Why don't you guys hang out as cousins? Like how we kinda, like, hang out like siblings, back home?" And they're like, "I don't know. We just have our lives and we do different things." But I'm like, "Oh, they didn't have that story of immigration where all our parents knew were other Portuguese people, so they just would go to their family and go to their other Portuguese people, and we didn't venture out too much, so then it's like, "Who were you hanging out with on the weekends?" "Your cousins at the hall."
The immigrant story was leaving everything behind for this story of what they were hearing, of how beautiful this country was. And they came to like serious hard work, discrimination. Like they had a lot of struggles,
Oh,
like
yeah.
not hiring this person, or you're not being paid the same because you're an immigrant, or you're this, or you trabalho duro was all the immigrants that came and
Mhm.
paved the road, right? But I think it was that sense of not losing anything else. Like we lost our homeland, we came to a new country,
Yeah.
we've lost our language. It was this drive to not lose anything else of who we were as a group of
Yes.
people. That's why, that thing the post that you did about Agora Nossa Vez, I swear I'm gonna make t-shirts with this because I'm telling you, that's exactly what that was. It was our parents, we will never have fashions like they had.
I've never had so many chills on an episode of my life. Like, this whole episode, I just been getting chills up and down.
But
Our
our parents,
angels.
the fashions will never be okay. So I was at the Fashion Sans Christ Jumilag here in Brampton, and it's getting bigger and bigger and has a vibe, but doesn't have the carrossage. I was talking to a follower. I said, next year I'm coming to sell apples and those twisty caramels that they
Yes.
used to have back in the day. Because
Yes.
nobody had the vendors were Italian old gentlemen who no longer exist, poor guy. Chef Ilse, God rest his soul. But he used to spit with these little whistles, used to come get the candy apple, the balloons with
Yeah.
the ringers inside. I was talking to a follower and I was saying, like, it's still beautiful. They do a big festa there, but it will never be how we had it because the drive of that festa was to connect themselves to what they couldn't get. Like
Yeah.
now, I can hop on a plane tomorrow if I want. Our
Mhm.
parents planned 3 years to go back, like 10 years, 20 years. I ran into a follower that just went back after 35 years.
Wow.
So, it's different nowadays. We can hop on wherever we want. Our parents couldn't just get on a plane and go back home.
No, they couldn't.
And so the feeling of staying connected is why our fashions were how they used to be, how we've transgressed into so many amazing cultural events and things. It's changed over the years, which it has to. Like, it's sad, but it has to because we now have our own evolution. We no longer want to stay living on the same street as 60-ish and 13 cousins,
Right.
I
Yeah.
want a nicer house in Georgetown. I want to go here. I want to go
Now
there.
we call
Our
before we do
jobs.
visitas and
Yeah. And now we're like the group of educators, the ones that have the
yeah.
degrees, the diplomas. Our jobs are different. They take us different places. So evolution has to happen. So the festas will never be the same. But now it's our no savage to make sure that although they'll be different, that they still happen, that we continue these legacies that our parents left for us because they are really important. And there's a kind of a shift that I see. There was a large gap of time. Nobody was interested. I don't want to go to festivals. I went to festivals all the time when I was a kid. I want to go camping. I want to go to the Trala. I want to go here. COVID hit. And what do people want now? Family connections, festivals, the little simple things that we almost lost during a pandemic, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we did lose because we couldn't go anywhere. But now you see more of the younger crowd. And in the announcement that they made, they were overwhelmed this year with younger people wanting to take the Undur, younger people stepping up to carry the image, younger people coming to be part of the committees. Everything's evolution, right? It comes and goes, it comes and goes. But really, when you said that day, I had chills everywhere because those words were so impactful. Because agora nossa maneira. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. It means it's done our way, which
Yeah.
is still good. It's the way that we need to do it now.
Yeah, like an arroz dos eating contest.
Oh my God, I died with that. I'm like, "Crap, I don't think I could even survive that.
Honestly,
I
that
don't."
might have been, like, the highlight of the whole entire Battle of the Bee Footage. It was wild. Like, next year, we're like, "We gotta put barricades, we gotta get a garbage bag for people to throw up in." It was
Crap.
just wild, but I was watching the velhinhos during these, outlandish ideas of ours, and I'm like, "What are these little velhinhos thinking right now? Like, these goddamn kids,
They're like, "Kish
what are they
previsto
doing?"
os dos."
Yeah, but it was great. We had a Portuguese bakery sponsor it. So, we helped this amazing little couple that reopened their family's bakery after retirement, and they sponsored that. It was something a
Yeah.
little kooky, a little, out of the box, but I can tell you that every generation was there. We're going to do something different a nossa maneira because
Yeah.
of the ways that people taught us how to do things, and we're like, we're gonna do it in a way where now these kids that didn't have the grandparents feeding them papas are understanding these are old school things that
Yeah.
are so part of being Portuguese, and we can't let them die, but, like, let's have a little fun with it. Let's put a ribbon and a bow on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is awesome. And again, it's the evolution of where we've come and where we're going. The thing is, for things to stay always the same, that's not good either. It
No.
needs an evolution. It needs a shift. It needs to fit the times. So, I think we're always so fearful we're losing things. I think we lose things in being so narrow-minded.
Totally.
I think if we're open-minded, accepting, like I say this all the time. We don't do justice to who we are as a community. We don't do justice to the talent that we have. We don't do justice to our own people. We're so locked in Miguel Fala sing Fala que mine is better than yours. No. Everything has its reason for being how it is.
Yes.
I have a reason for my accent. I have a reason. I mean, I get people, I don't speak pure Micalense because I went to Portuguese school. I went to, I can write, speak Portuguese. I can change my accents left, right, and center. That will never be what judges me as who I am as Portuguese. And it should never judge who I am as, where my heart is. Like, one of the comments I received that triggered my I'm now Italian was, you don't do justice to who we are as being Portuguese by making tomato sauce. No, by making tomato sauce, I highlight my story. That will always be my story that I was raised in an immigrant community with a lot of Italians who, honestly, I can speak it. I can make their food. I can talk. I can go to a party. They all think I'm Italian. I'm proud of that. My
Yes.
cousin's married into Italian.
Mhm.
I actually today on the radio I was playing Gloria, Gloria, and I'm like, God, we used to dance with our satin dresses when my
Yes.
cousins got married. It doesn't make me less Portuguese. It makes me, I think, exactly who I need to be as the daughter of immigrant parents who came to our
Absolutely.
country. And I think it's the narrow mindedness sometimes that will always set us back versus just listen.
I
Like,
feel for you food people because I've made a lot of friends that are doing food online, and man, the comments are so brutal of like, "That's not how you make it." And it's
yeah,
like, "That's how yes, it is how I make it. That's my version of however this is." And I don't know if it's just the protectiveness of their mom's dish or their
yeah,
family traditional way, but and hopefully a lot of these old my goal is to be so positive and be so impactful to the people that are helping our culture shine and thrive that the people that are narrow-minded stick out like sore thumbs and almost
yeah.
are
And they
embarrassed
and
being
they
that
do.
way.
And they do. And I have to tell you, I don't get a lot of that anymore. I got it more in the beginning because I cut it out. I was
Yes.
like, Not happening. Bye bye."
Yes.
Because I'm not on this for followers. I love all my followers. I'm very
Absolutely.
close to so many of them. But if you're going to come and be toxic like that, you can't be here. Like, that's
Absolutely.
just, it's not necessary. And, it's very simple to change the narrative. That's a very different way of making it. My mom makes it different, but I'm going to try it. That's all
I
it
know.
doesn't have to be, that's not how you make it. That's like a da-da-da. My mother puts olives. That's great. I don't. All it takes is one simple sentence of saying, "Oh, my mom makes that, but we do it differently." Cool. Like, it's so easy to change the narrative and
Yes.
to lift our community up. So simple. It's just a mindset of this negativity of this, and really we're all one community. We're all one community. If you
Yeah.
look back at all of our ancestry, we don't may not be Michelas. That's a good John. We may not even be Michelas. I may be African from Mozambique.
I know.
If you
Believe
look,
me,
right?
my genealogy was so crazy. I was like, "I'm only
Right?
50% Iberian Peninsula." Like,
Girl,
that's
I
it.
have Scottish in me. Do you know? Like, I'm gonna like Highland cattle. Like, where did Maya Vouge go to Scotland?
I
Right? Some
know.
Scottish woman came to San Miguel, Arala Britas Cabin Vermell, and there we go, right? Now I've
Exactly.
got it in my lineage.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
like, we are all so much more interconnected than a dish of food. Like, there's so much to who we are. Like, our genealogy, our history, our ancestry is so beautiful. We
It is.
dwell on the silliest things that takes away from the beauty of who we are. It really
Yes.
does. And I say this so often. I think I've annoyed the naysayers because they've just kind of left. Because I'm like, I have zero tolerance for that.
I
I'm
agree.
proud I grew up with Italians. I'm proud I can cook Polish. I'm proud I can cook German. I love to eat it. Bring me an African dish. Like, I'm good with all of that. And I want my children to be good with all of that. But in it, I don't want them to forget who we are. And, listen, like, my kids know the festas. They know what comes out for the dinners. They know about Masa Svada. I will never forget the year I was diagnosed. I had a biopsy and could not make masa for Easter. And my tradition is we sleep on the couches downstairs and we make masa through the night. And we break bread on Good Friday morning. This has become a tradition. My mom did it, I do it. And my mother said, okay, Nazia Maria Vita Masara Masa, so we can have Masinga. But I have to do it during the day. Nina's like, this is the worst Easter I've ever had. I'm like, why? Nina. She's like, because those masa didn't come in the morning hot. And we didn't sleep all night on the couch because I physically couldn't. And I thought, my God, okay, I'm doing something right because it's now tradition.
Mhm.
This is now embedded in her soul. The shading of masa on Good Friday morning marks Good Friday for her. And those were the things we grew up with.
Yes.
Right? Like the smell on Good Friday morning, that marked Easter. Yes, it's about God and everything else, but it was the shading mass of the flood, right?
Yes.
That was Easter for us. If there wasn't an Easter lily and hot masa, wasn't Easter. Or the
No,
amenduish, right?
of
It wasn't
course.
Easter. But like we dwell on all these silly little things, and there are people that are losing their family's story because they're not taking the moment to just absorb. The year my dad passed away, I went to San Miguel and I had said to my dad, Dad, Kwanishiga, I'm going to do a video. We're going to write it. You're going to tell me step by step how you make your venue. I want to know your luage and all these things you always talk about. My dad didn't make it and I never got his story. I have memories, I have pictures, but I never got his words of how he made it in his head. And so we dwell on so many things that we're losing so many beautiful traditions and things that come from the people we love because
Mhm.
we're sticking on these weird things in our lives and not focusing on the things that really, in the end, matter more than we ever imagine.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And that is why we need your stories. You're such an amazing storyteller. If this episode, I just enjoyed listening to you in general. It's just been so heartwarming because it's true. All these traditions, all this heritage, all this storytelling for the people that maybe lost that, you could be reigniting that in them. And there's so much power behind that. And maybe that is why the festas are bigger. And maybe like all of us little people expressing our little love and heart and how close we feel to our culture, maybe that is why our culture is not dying anymore. Like how I say we're thriving now. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing so many young kids that didn't grow up with the grandparents that we grew up with or the parents that we grew up with but now are starting new Portuguese traditions for their families, and that will help continue carry it on. So I feel like I had so many struggles with speaking Portuguese and this and that, not saying things right and voz and nós. And I would always be like, all right, well, I'm just going to say a gente because I'm too scared to say it wrong.
It's like me. I still do that. It's okay.
And so I would get so nervous, but the only reason why I'd get so nervous is because the things that people would say, like, you're saying it like that. That's not how you say it. And I'd be like, oh, that's so embarrassing. So that negativity really pushes people away
Mhm.
from their culture. And I remember rebelling against the language when I was like, I'm never speaking Portuguese again. I'd be
Yeah.
so nervous because the people that made me feel that way. So it's
Yeah.
y'all, as much as we can be impactful and with these traditions and everything, but you could really, I don't know, push someone away from it by being so narrow-minded as well. So
Mhm.
it's just like, be careful because those comments are actually killing our culture and putting so much poison into our culture as well. When these kids just love, dancing, whatever it may be. They
Yeah.
just love being together and being in that safe Portuguese circle. And maybe they don't understand that their meias or sapatos don't, fly off because that is a tried and true tradition. Maybe they don't know it, but they're sure dancing their butt off and they look really cute in those outfits, but I think we should just take more opportunities to teach rather than to discourage. So encourage, don't discourage. There was a dancer and I grew up dancing in folklore groups. So there was a dancer and I knew she was new in the group and she kept losing her shoe. And I remember feeling, oh, the embarrassment of that, in front of thousands of people, right? And she keeps losing her shoe, but she kept getting it back on like in that dance. And I was like, yeah, girl, come on. You got it. Don't worry. Like, and that's part of the show. That's showbiz. That's
Yeah.
that's a dramatic effect. The shoe flies off but it was a magical thing seeing all the dancers slowly kick the shoe toward towards her, and I'm like, "That's an art," like, they're slowly kicking the shoe towards her, and after I looked at her I talked to her and I said, you you did a great job dancing, by the way, and don't ever let those things like your shoe flying off ever discourage you in any form. These are almost muscles that get built into us, like your arms with the miking, the masa suvada. You're gonna eventually never have a
Yeah.
shoe fly off in a performance. These are just muscles and you're just learning right now. But you're gonna go back to this moment and be like, "Oh my god, my first performances, my shoe was flying everywhere, it was so embarrassing," and you're gonna realize, like, "I can't believe that I've grown from that." So even,
Yes.
the muscles in your arms with the masa sovada, that there's a muscle that comes with being Portuguese and, like, mastering those things too. So, as long as we're continuing to encourage these kids, I think we're safe in this culture and we'll
Yeah.
be okay.
Continuing our legacies and our culture is just like cooking. You're going to make mistakes. It may not be good today. It'll be better tomorrow. And eventually you master it.
Wow.
And I think if we just have to allow the evolution to happen of our culture, but never give up on it, you know? Like this whole thing about the Portuguese collective, I'm like, I love this. It is a collective. It is coming together, people contributing, showcasing, and then you got the kashmir. Click the link and go to the site.
Yes.
Where's your receita? To one person, but I'm not giving it to you until you go on and I see your finger and your name show up on the Portuguese collective.
Yes.
I actually hostaged the recipe for the longest time. I just recently posted it because I'm like, I want to see fingers clicking and supporting
Yes.
this evolution of community coming together. It doesn't matter if it's in California. It doesn't
No, it's
matter
for all
if
of
she's a
us.
Lintjana. It doesn't matter if I'm Mikoles. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter. It
Yes.
just everyone needs to support. Everyone needs to, it doesn't matter if she makes her queijada like this, I make my queijada like that. Isn't it beautiful you now have 6 versions of a queijada to pick from?
I've already had 2 people email the collective asking for your receta.
Oh, that's so
So,
funny. They
that's
just
never happened. I've
they're
had
probably
plenty
the
of
same ladies that
recipes.
I said, "I'm not giving it to you
Yeah,
till you
and they're like,
follow the
How
Portuguese
do I get
collective."
it?" And so I'll send the link, and then I
That's
I
so
did send
funny.
that page because and that's never happened. I've had people have recipes and things like that, and I was like, "This is so special. That's the beginning of something." So for those of you who don't know, that Nezia also is a resident storyteller for the Portuguese Collective magazine as well, and I encourage Canadians and people from the East Coast, wherever you are in our
Mhm,
US, in Canada, send me festa flyers. Send me things that are going on in your community because I can
mhm,
only and my algorithm is majority of California and I need people to send me things from their communities so that it can be shown for all. I don't want this to
mhm.
just hit California. I want us all to be involved. So I just had a little boy at the Battle of the Bufonage, and he was like, "How do I get the magazine?" And I could tell he was interested in, like, contributing or something, just his little very empath too, so I just could and I said, "Do you wanna be a part of the magazine?" He was probably, I don't know, 12 or something, 11 or 12. And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "I go to a lot of festivals and I take pictures and stuff." I said, "You know
Oh
what?
my
You could have your
goodness,
own
I love
corner
it.
of, like, Seth's Festa Life or whatever it may be, and any of your pictures, any of if you wanna write something to go along with it, that will be your, like, own little media world of your experiences at festas." And he was so excited, and like, really quick, I wrote down my email. I said, "You can email me any day, anytime for anything." Like, there's a space for you.
How incredible is
And
that?
that's where I feel like we're hitting our generations and everything like that, but the
Yes,
young, like your daughter's age, the really young to influence is going to be
yes,
where we're really gonna keep this
yeah.
going and keep our traditions alive. So, thank you. Where can people follow you?
That TikTok, I'm
Yeah.
actually, I'm growing slowly, but in recovery, I have to do give and takes to a lot of things. And
Yes,
so
of
I do
course.
have a page on Facebook, which is Growing Up Mika Lens. I have one on Instagram, Growing Up Mika, a little slow, but it'll get there. And TikTok is the bigger platform right now. So Nezia D at TikTok, growing up Mikolas.
Yes, I will make sure to go to your Facebook page and invite all my friends to follow your page, and we'll put all the links so that you guys can follow Nezia. It's such a treat. Thank you so much for meeting with me, and it's
Thank
really our
you.
first time meeting, like, in
I know.
person.
Hey,
Thank you
did
for
the
being
Taco Frita give you a hug? I told you when you see Silvia, you give her a big abraço for me.
I just love these people that I'm meeting and, like, the friendships that I'm creating. I just feel genuinely friends. Yesterday, I recorded
Yes.
with Morgan and Louie in Portugal, and they're amazing too, and they're just a beautiful couple, and we would
Yes.
have never known about each other if it weren't for this little family we're building, like, this creator
Yeah.
family, and we're all very supportive of one another. We're all very collaborative, and I think that's just the new generation of being Portuguese.
Yeah.
Say goodbye to the judging and the competitions and all of those bad habits that we had, and we're all gonna keep this culture alive by supporting each other, and that's the number one thing.
And by being ourselves, which I think is
Yes.
the other beautiful things. We all have our own uniquenesses to bring to the table. And being our own genuine people, coming to the table with our genuine stuff is, what's so beautiful about the evolution of what I'm seeing, growing, right?
The comedy skits, please don't stop those because they have me cracking up, and I picture you laughing, editing them in.
I crack up sometimes with these. I do.
I hope that everything is, on the up with your health and everything. I love seeing your face, and I can't wait to share you with all of my people, and this is just gonna be a beautiful thing for us. I think every 4 months, we're gonna see a special recipe and a story from
I'm
you.
already working on my story,
Yes,
girl.
it's gonna be amazing, and thank you again for being part of the collective and being a good friend to me as well.
Well, thank you for having me because this is really very, very special. Being part of the magazine is special because I know, and I've told you, this is the tip of the iceberg of something really, really big that's going to be happening because it's
Thank
being
you.
driven from a place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's you can't make that up or market it. When it's something comes from the heart with a love and a passion, it has to be great.
I
And so
know.
I know this is the beginning of
Thank you.
something really wonderful.
I really appreciate that. Well, we'll talk soon. Don't forget to follow Nezia and beijinhos.
All
Adeus.
right. Take care.